Lay down next to me. Don't listen when I scream. Bury your doubts and fall asleep. For neither ever nor never. Goodbye.
Alright, hey, so just really quickly guys, before you watch the review, I just wanted to throw this in here, that if the audience for Dark Season 3 is interested, I would be willing to consider doing watch parties on Netflix where we could chat further about each episode of the show. And, it wouldn't be a review, but it would be a way for all of us to kind of talk about what we're thinking about what was going on in those scenes in each episode. So let me know in the comment section if you guys are interested in Dark Season 3 watch parties. Alright, enjoy the review. Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. And it's been a long time. Been a long time coming. We're here to talk about Dark Season 3. So just up front, if you like the stuff on my channel, please hit the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Hit the bell for all notifications, all that stuff, yada yada yada. Also, if you hate this review, I highly recommend going over to Enchantment of Eternity, sorry, who did a fantastic, really extensive review of this show. Just fantastic. And he deserves to get a lot more views than he does. Seriously, he's really great. It's not like I'm doing a commercial for him now. I'm trying to give you guys options, because when I was introduced to Dark through one of my subscribers, Belinda, I had tried to watch this show before. Then I gave it the old college try and really got into it and reviewed every episode, trying to make sense of it all. You know, the show is so many threads everywhere. You know, it's like looking at one of Dexter's like blood spatter patterns, or a conspiracy wall where somebody's got all the connections all over the place and trying to keep it all straight. And so I thought I did an all right job, and some of you did too. Some of you thought I was just a stupid American who only likes happy endings. And I did Season 2. And what was nice about getting into Dark when I did was that I didn't have to wait very long until Season 2 came out. And so I had momentum. And I knew, all the players, and everything was pretty still fresh in my head. And so, all these videos have been getting a really great response on the channel. I don't really look at my analytics much, but I do look at what's trending on my channel. And Dark's been trending it's like all of it's Dark. And that's great. But like I said, what I've noticed is that my channel's not really changing because of it. Which leads me to believe that people either are watching it for a second and not subscribing and not liking and just leaving, or these are people just rewatching the videos that they watched before. And so when it finally comes out, Dark Season 3 comes out, and it's been a long time, it's been like a year since I've even did a review for it, and I do a lot on my channel, and so I forgot basically, I didn't forget the plot, but I forgot everybody's names. I forgot who was who, except for Jonas and Martha. As it slowly seeped in, I started remembering more and more quickly, but I lost the momentum and the drive and the negativity that was surrounding some of the comments that were just really mean. In fact, I just got a comment that was like, I hadn't seen a negative comment in a while, and I finally got one. Somebody said, "Your constant laughter made the review bad." Alrighty then. So I just responded, "Thanks. LOLOLOLOLO." So when it comes to doing this review, I was very trepidatious. I was very hesitant. even to watch it. Because, like I said, the interest had faded for me. I'm not a super fan. Like, you guys that watch this show are some of the most dedicated fans. And I did really like it. But like I said, momentum and time and everything else, it just kind of pushed this show to the background. And so, when I finally started watching it, I knew I wasn't going to do episode-to-episode reviews, because I just don't do that anymore for new bingeable shows. Thankfully, some stuff is finally coming out week to week on other streaming services, and I hope Netflix gets on board with this too, because I feel like binging with this nice novelty, but now, like, I got a full-time job, man. I cannot just fully commit to, binging and reviewing episode to episodes for shows for fandoms that are fickle, and no, and that's, I'm fickle too, guys. So am I. And there's no guarantees that anything's gonna pay off for you. And so I just didn't have the drive like I did before. Like, I was cranking out videos to little to no results, and I don't do things for likes and subscribes here. I've been saying that for a long time, and it is mostly true. It's nice to see those things. Views is what I really go off of, because views gives me motivation. And if you don't see the traffic, then why? I move on. I try new things. I try to evolve the channel. Like the way that I used to review things is different now. It looks kind of similar, but I'm working on things, trying to make the channel more aesthetically pleasing, which to me is, kind of goes against how I want to do things. But you get more views when people see things look a certain way. Beauty, pretty. It shows that people, the few of you that some of you that do watch this for the content of what I say, and not for how well lit everything is. Like it's supposed to be some kind of fucking overproduced bullshit. And so those were all things that were coming into my head about when I do season 3 of Dark. How am I even going to do it? And yes, welcome to the channel, guys. This is how I talk. This is how I review things. This is my process. So for those of you who haven't skipped ahead to find out, like, when's he going to talk about fucking Jonas and Martha? I'm getting to it. Because this is only one video. I want to get everything out there. God, I've already talked for 7 minutes without really talking about the show. So this is going to be a complicated, you're probably not going to like everything I have to say, but it's like I said when I was playing The Last of Us Part 2. At first, I was like, alright, let's do this. Playing it. And after a while, I had very many conflicting feelings throughout that whole game. Where I was like, why am I watching, why am I doing this? What is the point? Is this going to just be, and that's kind of how I felt through the process of watching season 3. It was one of those things that you have to get all the way to the end. I don't always like that, where a show just drags you along, and some people are hoping for a payoff. Some people are probably hoping, Jonas and Martha can find a way out of this. I think what they did here, though, getting all the way to the end, I think what they did here was pretty good, for the most part. Really, really good for the most part. It also made me think about how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to end, because they're doing time travel too. And I kind of feel like their end of their show is going to be similar to this. In some ways. This one, their way will probably be, more, like I said, overproduced and polished, not polished, but just less, there's going to be a little more hope. Because that was the word that I would say is in this final season, and it was why it was hard to get through, was this hopelessness throughout, and bleakness. The show has always been dark and bleak, but I always felt like in the first 2 seasons they were working towards something that would be hopeful. We would finally, see some hope. And that's not just me being a stupid American wanting happy fucking ending. That's just how people like to see stories, I do think this show challenges viewers, including myself, to see where the journey takes you. And this was a journey, and it had me thinking a lot of feelings, especially when we get this episode, what was it, 5? Life or Death, or Life and Death. Whoa. And I also got to say, to all the actors on this show, from the biggest part to the smallest part, everybody is giving like 1,000,000%. They must have had to try to keep things real light on this set for how dour everything else is. When you say action and everything is just so going into season 3, we find out eventually that when the accident and everything happened, their worlds got split. There was one world and it got split. I'm looking at the screen and I'm going to stop myself real quick. Another thing that's really interesting about Netflix and this show is that I like to keep the subtitles on things now, just to make sure if I'm like I get distracted or whatever, I hear and see everything. Most things, like if I were to put subtitles on an American show, would play out exactly word for word what they said. This show, okay, when everything needs to be about context, right? Their subtitles do not match up almost ever what they're saying. So I'm watching this with an English dub, right? Like a lot of people do here in America, right? Good on you if you watch it in German. And if you watch it in German with English subtitles, right, you are not going to get the same experience quite as if you just watch it with the American dubbing. Everything again is like context. So like certain phrases are completely changed from what people are saying. So it's a lot of times how things are said and the way things, like and certain words that mean something. If your subtitles don't, match contextually and plot, people are going to be even more confused. So I highly do not recommend putting on the subtitles at all. Watch the English dub or whatever language that is available that you can speak or that you can hear or understand. Watch that. Do not watch the subtitles because the subtitles are somehow weird and not right in my opinion. They could make you think that somebody's motivations or inflections and how all that's really important in this show can change a lot of things. Anyway, now that I've done that. So there was one origin world. And when the event happened, things got split. And there's Jonas and Martha's in one world and Jonas and Martha's in another world. Everybody's playing out things just, slightly different. Meanwhile, the other thing that's going on is you've got people after the first 2 seasons all over time. There's people just everywhere, and the constant flipping of back and forth and back and forth. And yes, they do show you, at least, through like a year counter, where they're taking you back and forth and back and forth. But after a while, I was like, I don't know if this is which Jonas I'm talking to, which Martha I'm talking to, which world, where were they from. I felt like I was keeping up pretty good, but there were times when I'm just like, I don't know what's going on as far as when and what world You know, who are these, like, what version of these people, what world are they from? But in the end, that all kind of stopped mattering once we get up to the end of it. And that's why I almost feel like it feels like a lot of things in here, and sorry, it just, when I think about pacing and where the story ended up, I feel like this could have been a lot shorter. Especially because, and I was really disappointed in this part, was that a lot of characters just kind of got pushed into the background. People that had a lot of things going on just kind of stopped mattering. Like, their part of the story was over, but they just kind of got left there. There was no wrap up. They were all pawns in this game, and that Adam and Eva were doing. And I do like the fact that Adam is Jonas, Eva is Martha, and that they've got these opposing plans. You know, Adam has decided that he's going to destroy the knot, while Eva's trying to keep it going so that all these people can just keep living. What they don't realize is there's this third option that's been going on, and neither do we, or at least I didn't notice that there was a third option going on until late in the game. And that's, again, why some things had to happen. Other things I feel like could have been cut out. One thing that really could have been cut out that I really didn't need was the sex scenes. And the reason is that, not because I'm some kind of sexually repressed American. It was because I'm watching kids that are in high school, and while sex laws are different in different countries, it just kind of felt wrong watching these sex scenes happen for, to me, no purpose. You know, there's lots of ways to convey how much somebody likes someone without showing sex. And when I was watching teenagers with, you know, nudity, it just felt icky to me. While these actors, I'm sure, are above age in America, hopefully, to do this, you know, I felt like it wasn't really that necessary. Now you could say, well, you know, you needed the one sex scene to show that Martha gets pregnant, but not really. And it's so many shows people cut away, and then they show them a belly, and you go, oh, I get it. They did it. They had had a baby. But it just made me really uncomfortable, and it was really weird for me to feel like that. But I kept going, those are high schoolers. I don't care what age they're supposed to be. I don't really need to see that. I know high schoolers are out there having sex. It just feels kind of creepy watching it. So they have these opposing plans, and everybody's working their hardest to make sure that the other one fails. And there's so many people that, you know, are all lying to each other to make sure that their thing happens and leaving things out, and everybody just kind of blindly trusting. So many times people are just showing up, you have to trust me, you have to trust me, this is going to happen. A lot of that, to where at the point where it's just like you start going, there's no control over any of it. Like, you have no free will. Everybody just keeps following the line. I kept wondering, when is somebody going to break the cycle? Has anybody thought about the third option, which is to just not do what someone's saying? But then you go, well, if you don't do it, maybe the point was to not do it. Like, maybe they knew you'd say no just by asking. So it got a little frustrating. You're going, like, again, no free will. Like, and you never knew who was telling the truth until, like, later on near the end, where it's like, I had to tell you these things because otherwise this wouldn't have happened, and la la la. And you got stuff like this. That, like, why did I need to see that again? Like, it's really powerful, but it's, you know, seeing a kid get his head bashed in, and then seeing Ulrich get his comeuppance. It just, like, ugh, that's rough. There's some rough stuff in here. And in fact, in Life and Death, that one was really rough. Because again, I just didn't understand at the end, after watching all of it, what was, you know, they wanted to connect dots. So like with Katerina, right? The Katerina who's trying to get Ulrich out of this mental institution, who looks like the Indian from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at that point. she goes to get the key card from her mother, and her mother ends up bashing her head in with a rock, reflecting what Ulrich did to, oh man, I had his name, the poor kid's name, Helga? And it was all to show that, she finds the necklace, the same coin that's been passed around is all here, and so I know there's a point to it, but it just felt so like, well, that's it. Ulrich's stuck in the mental institution. Katarina's dead. What, like, to just kind of cross the I's and dot the T's, it just felt, it was really, really harsh and really, really effective and emotional and powerful, but I just, at the end of the day, I kind of was like, I don't know, and then you got, like, Peter and Elizabeth. Elizabeth just says, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to keep looking for people that are dead. And that choice leads her to go back to the camper, the RV, by herself, and some asshole comes in there and fucking tries to rape and kill her and take all their things, which means if she had just, her dad comes back, they get into a huge fight, her dad is stabbed in the throat and killed, and she eventually kills the man who was trying to kill them. And basically the decision not to go with her father created the situation, and now she's lost without anyone in this future. And then that's it. That's it. We have this horrifying scene of violence, and then that's it. There's no more Peter. They don't even go back to Elizabeth. There's nothing, like, they just leave them in this horrible situation, and then that's it. We never see them again. Not really. Not those versions. Like, we never see Elizabeth again. And that's another thing, is like the kids, right? Bartosz, Magnus, Franziska, they just kind of get left. Like, they're there, but there's nothing happening. And I felt like, they were pawns, but I felt like there should have been more to it, and even in the finale, we don't get anything. And maybe that's because, in the origin world, maybe they don't even exist. Characters like Noah the priest, who's been a pawn throughout the whole thing too. We see how everything is set up, okay? So I understand that, right? That in this third season, we see where everyone started. So all their stuff that was in season 1 and 2, we see the point of, like, how it all got set in motion. So that's important. But it felt like the whole time also that we were just slowly getting rid of loose ends and explaining origins. In a way, it was all going circular, and the end is the beginning is the end, So we were seeing beginnings at the end, and we were seeing ends at the beginning. It's all really genius. It's all really well thought out. It all really broke my brain, which is another reason why it took forever to get through, because every time I was over with one, I was like, I don't know if I can watch another one. And then the whole thing with the whole, Winden blowing up, or whatever, just seemed to take less importance to just the Jonas, Martha, Adam, Eva plot to either keep things going or blow them up. And we have all these different versions of, like, one world's Martha kills Jonas, and then another, Martha does something else, and so Martha from another world's with Jonas from the original world, in which she, the other one kills Jonas. It started to get like, oh my God, how many Jonas and Marthas are there? It seemed like that at one point there was at least 3 of each running around. And then you got the kid, their baby, who's walking around, old version, adult version, child version, walking around taking people out early on. And they were creepy as hell. in the best possible way. I thought it was great. I thought they were great. But once their part of the story was done, it was just like, done. I mean, I had that figured out. That was like the one thing I had figured out early, was that that was the kid, their kid, that never really existed. I don't. And in the linchpin of this whole thing, right, is the origin, finding the origin, right? Of course, it's so simple in a complicated show that it all starts as something simple and then explodes into this complicated web of this guy named Tannhaus that they've been talking about, that we've seen throughout the show, lost his son and his, like, you know, his wife and their kid in an accident, and their last interactions were bad, and you know, the son and him are not getting along, and they left, and they went off a bridge and died, and so Tannhaus invented time travel. And because he invented time travel, instead of like just going back in time to try to save his son's life, he ended up splitting the universe into two pieces, effectively, you know, like getting rid of the original origin. Somehow you can get back to it with their apples of Eden thing that they always are walking around with. It's the first thing I think of, is Assassin's Creed's Apple of Eden. So, like I said, they eventually figure out that if they go to the origin and they stop him from creating the reason to make time travel, then none of this will have happened. That is so simple that, again, I just felt like, wow. They really stretched out connecting the I's and dotting the T's, you know, showing us all this stuff like, yeah, Ulrich now is, in another world, Ulrich and Charlotte are getting it on. No matter what universe, Ulrich's always sleeping around on somebody. In the one that we're introduced to, he's married to Katerina, sleeping with Hannah. In this one, he's sleeping with Charlotte. He left, I think he left Katerina, right? He went with Hannah, got her pregnant, and then is sleeping with Charlotte. And even if he wasn't with Katerina in there, it doesn't matter. He's always banging somebody else. He's never satisfied with where he is. And I always feel like he's the one character that every time whatever happens to him, I'm like, he had it coming. The whole, we can't keep doing this. Oh, well then don't. But that's how his character's written. He's well acted. The guy kills it, and the casting in this of all the different versions of everyone is so brilliant. But trying to like not get lost, because it's so hard to get lost in talking about this, because there's so many different connections. So like I said, the simplicity of it all just feels like, did we really have to have this stretched out? This could have been a movie. This could have been like a 2.5-hour movie, to be honest with you, if you trimmed out a lot of stuff and you just kind of explain things. Because they do a lot of times where they're showing like long kind of musical montages where you think the episode's over when they start doing it, but no, it just keeps going. That's not a diss. It's just trying to think of like how they could have streamlined this, because it really went on. And I know that, I think, season 2, I think, had 10 episodes. This is only 8. So they figure out Martha, one version's world's Martha and one Jonas, finally get to the origin part, where they're in the road on the rainy day. They stop the car from running them over, which is what I thought was going to just happen. They're in the middle of the fucking road, and the guy gets out of his car, and they tell him that the bridge is out, and they creep the guy out, and basically they go back to his dad's. And so they never go off the bridge, which means he never has to create time travel. You know, to me it just kind of felt like maybe they don't go on. Maybe they don't make up, but they didn't die. And so he doesn't create time travel, which means that none of this happened, and the two worlds that never should have existed disappear. Everyone in it, none of that stuff happened to those. Well, I mean, it happened, but no one will ever know or remember. Which almost feels like it takes away from the impact of, to me, the things that did happen that we know. So it's like the characters remember, but we do. And that's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, because we have to know that all these terrible things happened and now it's meaningless to me. Because the real meaning was to get back to the one world where there's only one version of suffering going on. Because even as beautiful it is, like Adam and Eva standing there going, like, and disappearing, and everybody's starting to disappear, and Martha and Jonas, beautiful, that whole last moment with them, him telling her that, we weren't a mistake. Like, I don't care what, nobody's going to remember. This isn't going to matter in a second. It's like, all the things that happen and then you die, and it's like you were just a bunch of experiences, and then you carry on by the memory of people that, knew you and the impact that you left on the world. But they won't leave any impact on the world because they never existed. And so the only impact that affects anything is the audience. And so in that, it was beautiful. Their characters they do leave indelible impressions, strong impressions. And, these characters did the brave thing that no one will ever know. And that's awesome. That is awesome. But at the same time, I'm like, oh man, this is such, it was such a downer. And sad, but poetic. And again, I'm not an American just looking for a happy ending. I like this ending. It is the only ending that could have happened. It's the only way that they really could have gone out. I mean, yeah, I guess they could have just said in the like final moments, like, nothing worked. Or the guy just goes off the bridge anyway. And they go, oh my God, nothing means anything. And then they do just continue on the loop. Or Jonas finds a way to destroy everything, and all universes just get taken out of existence. But in the end, they succeed, and it's really sweet and sad and beautiful. And we have the ending, right? Then the ending. And it's just, a small group of characters. Hannah's there, pregnant. The cop that has been in that background, the one who's, giving the stink eye to Ulrich and Charlotte because he knows that they're having an affair. He's there. Regina's there. Katerina's there. Peter's there. And the trans character, I can't remember if he was trans or if he was just a drag queen. Doesn't matter. The one from the RV. I thought those were all interesting choices to have in the room. There's no Ulrich. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a really strong point that he wasn't there. There was no Charlotte. But the whole thing was, they're having this dinner. They all coming together to talk. The power goes out. Hannah freaks. She sits there and kind of has this like moment, and you see what she's seeing. And she sees the yellow raincoat. Jonas's yellow raincoat. And she talks about how she saw the end of the world and, how it was actually freeing. This was the best from her, by the way, this scene right here. Because Hannah, to me, was almost an unredeemable character in both worlds. Pregnant or not. A little more redeemable in the other world where she didn't know Jonas at all. Of course she wouldn't. But the one from the story from season 1, boy. So it was nice to see her without all those things going on. Like this, she wasn't going through all that stuff. Or maybe she was. We only saw this one room, this one scene. We don't know. And, they talk about they wish they lived in a world without Wyndon. But Wyndon's there, so does that mean... I guess without what Tannhaus does, the apocalypse doesn't happen. But they still have, the nuclear plant there, and as far as you can tell, maybe some shady things are still going on, right? I don't know. We don't know anything about this origin world, really, outside of what they talk about in this room. And that there's clearly no Jonas, and there's probably no Martha. all right? Because they didn't exist in the origin world, at least yet. And that's the thing, is that, they ask Hannah, what do you want to name your kid? And of course we know what she's going to say, and she says, I always thought Jonas was a pretty good name. Would it be our Jonas, the Jonas that we know? Probably, but you don't know. Maybe it's just another person that she just likes the name, and that would go on. And then he gives you hope that maybe that, there will be a Martha. I don't know. It's a really beautiful and hard experience. It takes a certain level of intelligence to watch this show and understand it completely. Even I'm not 100% sure about everything. I think I have the basics about it. I think I've covered it in that respect. I know that people are going to want probably more. But that's, and as much as I talked about other things, I mean, that's about all I can give it. Because in the end, it was about getting to the ending and understanding the ending. And I feel like that's, they did the ultimate sacrifice to save everyone, to save at least one world where none of this had happened. And so it worked. And maybe they'll come back, but they'll never know. And they won't have to know, that Tannhaus did what he did to save somebody. And, all this is about, all these characters are all just trying to save each other. And, one, Eva feels justified, Adam feels justified. We're all the heroes of our own story. One person's villain is another person's hero. But in the end, like I said, I feel like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to go the same way, where there's going to be a sacrifice where nobody's going to even know that they saved the world. And that's what happens here. And it's sad and beautiful, poetic, dark, bleak, lots of things. But there was hope at the end. There was light at the end. I do like that they mentioned that, everything went dark. Hannah saying, though, it felt great to let go, and then the lights come back on. And that's Dark Season 3. There's some hope at the end. Will this be the last we see of this universe? I don't know. It feels like a fitting end, but you never know. Maybe they'll do like a different version of it and tell a different kind of story, but like just similar. I hope they leave it alone, because I think these 3 seasons perfectly, I like shows that don't go on for too long. I feel like if they had gone on another season, it really probably would have gotten convoluted, and the plots would have gotten already stretched thin, because like I said, they were already dropping characters left and right. And yeah, I don't know. I'm having a hard time ending this video. So again, it was a very satisfying experience. It's one of the most unique experiences I've ever seen on television. It's one of the best decisions Netflix ever had to like get this show going, from picking this up from Germany and letting it go on. Because a lot of shows don't always last on Netflix, despite what people might think. And it's nice to see that this got an ending, and it's nice to see that this show has been picking up a bigger, wider audience as it's gone on. Because I can tell you from the traffic I have on my channel, people are watching this show. And that's great. It's nice to see people watching something intelligent. And not just what's on the top 10 list of Netflix, which is mostly just a bunch of duh. Mostly. You've got your Avatars, The Last Airbenders, and you've got your Uncut Gems and things like that mixed in there occasionally. But then you've got, the stupid-ass other shit. There's nothing wrong with stupid-ass other shit. I just don't I just don't watch it. I try to find stuff like this. And so, if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Please try to keep your comments civil. I won't respond to negative comments. and they will get removed if they're too awful. I'm just a guy trying to describe a very hard show, and hopefully, and kind of, yeah, maybe it is like the Cliff Notes. Maybe it is the Idiot's Guide to Dark. This dork wearing an X-Men shirt trying to talk about time travel. But hey, X-Men have been time traveling way longer than this show was on. So I've seen so many different kinds of time travel shows, you guys, that this one makes one of the most sense, at least. You know what I mean? At least there's that. For time travel shows, this one really makes the most sense out of a lot of them. So, thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks for being such dedicated fans, and hopefully you guys will find some other new show that's just as good that maybe you guys will turn me on to. So, and we can talk about it then. Otherwise, this is Robert Smirking Gun Review saying have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.